X is about Joe Rogan, says Bathroom Tunes. Well, I did say I wanted to talk about that Edward Snowden podcast. That was incredible. I thought that was a fantastic podcast. I've heard the guy like tell the story quite a few times before, but Joe, he let Edward like pretty much talk uninterrupted, and he did ask some really good questions at one point or another. There's a bit like the really fascinating bits right at the very end as well. The whole thing was fascinating, but right at the very end, he talks about he actually describes how often your phones that we all have in our pockets are communicating with cell towers, and how all this information is stored constantly, and like your cell phone is basically in your pocket broadcasting out your details constantly. And he's starting to talk about how like Google and Facebook have their hands into so many different apps that constantly send information without you realizing it. And he was saying that like our phones should have better control of what information gets shared and sent out. And he also there's this bit where he goes into like, it was almost like a famous motivational speech or something at the end. I wanted to listen to it again. I think I'll go back and listen to it again. There's this bit where Joe just lets him talk, and it's almost like a famous speech or something. He just says so much profound stuff. They monitor us for targeted advertisements, says Razor Jazz. That might be the reason why they do it. That might, well, it is. We know that. There's truth in that statement. It might not be the only reason, and it might not be the only reason in the future. That's the real thing. I think I could sign along with, okay, your data's being used to advertise to you. Seems, for the most part, harmless, but that data is being permanently stored and kept. Everything you do online is permanent now. Like, these big data companies hoard all the information that they can get. And sure, it's being used for advertisement now, but that power, that information is powerful, and power corrupts. And so that at one point or another, this stockpile of information that these big data companies have on all of us, it could fall into the wrong hands. And that's why it's so scary. It's very scary how much data is just constantly being vacuumed. Apparently Android is really bad. Android is constantly sending tons of telemetry data, for them to use. Like things like how often you click on certain parts of the screen. Like apparently it sucks up just tons of information. These big corporations are already the bad hands, says Alex Carr. They could be already bad. It can also get worse than it currently is. The fact that it's all there and being hoarded and stored, that's what's so potentially dangerous. Talbot says, I don't really care about them using my information. I do nothing wrong. I have nothing to worry about, I assume. Yeah, that's a common response. There are some really good arguments I've heard against thinking like that as well. Like collectivized data can be useful as well. That it's not just about you as an individual, it's about the fact that groups of people's information are being collected. Look, it's fair enough to say you're doing nothing wrong, but what about when the data is being used against you? It's kind of hard for me to reiterate it because it was a while since I fell down, heard the argument against that. I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? And I really like listening to ones about technology and where technology is going, and about big companies like Facebook and what they're doing. And I've heard some really good arguments against thinking like that. I just can't quite re-articulate it. But it's why it's such a good idea to always listen to lots of different points of view and stuff. Like on Edward Snowden, I personally think what he done was heroic, and I wouldn't call him a patriot because I don't really believe in patriotism, but I certainly think he did the right thing, and that we had a right to know. But I've also taken the time to listen to people who are inside of the government or the military or whatever, because podcasts are incredible. They give you access to all sorts of people with different life experiences and worlds of knowledge and just different perspectives. And I listened to a podcast with one guy who was actually, military, national security, all this kind of stuff, who didn't think that Snowden was a patriot and thought that he was, creating a huge risk to the security of the country, and it was very interesting. I didn't really agree with the guy on too many levels, but I certainly learned more about that perspective. You can look at life in different ways. Absolutely hate targeted marketing. I always feel so far sorry for anyone who's recovering gambling addict, and as myself, every advert is nothing but gambling deals. Yeah, that is a very good point. What I like, that could extend to other industries as well, right? But like, does the gambling industry have any morality there, or even aware of that? I think they're probably just motivated by profit, right? You got no option in saying, hey, look, I don't want to see these ads. Should have control over that, but you don't. Talbot says, in Belgium there was a while ago some trouble about the Google Assistant recording and saving messages, which the AI couldn't understand, and people from Google would listen to it to make the AI better. How can people expect the assistant to work if it can't be made better with information? Well, why do we have to expect it to be better? Why does our information has to be used without us knowing to develop their products, right? You can say, oh, you signed the terms and conditions. Yeah, no one really knows what they're signing when they do that stuff, right? We just click it to get access to the program we want to use. But all the data, that's another thing that it's used for, right? Not just advertising. All this data is used to train AI. And no one really signed up for that. No one really signed up for, hey, all your information is going to be used to train some sort of intelligence. James Bay says, what are your thoughts on the political organisations using your private data to influence how you vote? So this happens, right? Cambridge Analytica kind of showed it. There's lots of evidence out there of Russians doing it as well. The Russian troll farm, as they call it. Like, this has always gone on, though. It's just happening in a new form. There has always been political meddling from one country to another. There's tons of evidence out there of America interfering with other people's elections. Like, it's what governments and systems that try to preserve themselves do. And then when there's parties that want to get elected and get into power, they want to persuade voters, and they use whatever's at their means. And it's just happening in a new form now, and this new form is like more powerful as things seem to progress. Things get better. Your phone gets faster, your computer gets faster. Like, generally things head in that direction, right? And now it's happening for the forces that can influence us, right? We're seeing that the forces in the world that can influence our decision making is getting stronger. It's easy to have an opinion, maybe be aligned with a particular party, and then see the information you're exposed to as being truth and someone else's as propaganda. But the reality is it's all trying to sway you to one side or another. And when you look at it like that, you might see it happening both ways. Red Craptor says, what is your opinion on people's opinions about opinions? Oh, opinions are opinions. That's what I think. What was the thing I cancelled? Oh, yeah, I deleted my Facebook account the other day. And it was actually, like, when I searched it, Facebook actually tell you how to delete your Facebook account. So I was like, I'm not keen on all y'all over there at Facebook, but, at least you were not trying to hide it or bury it in loads of menus and stuff. It was like, search for how to delete Facebook, get an answer. It's never actually deleted. Once you type your login, another time it will be restored, says Carl WM. That is old news. That would have been true. You have deactivating your account and deleting your account. Your data will permanently be removed from Facebook after 30 days. Now, that might be because I'm from Europe. It might be a European GDPR thing. But I remember deactivating my account in the past and having no delete option. And since the GDPR thing happened, there is now a delete your account option. So I think it is actually a thing that you can delete your Facebook account now. They can still collate your non-personal information though, so you aren't completely off of Facebook. Yeah, shadow profiling and stuff like that. It's like if you're not on Facebook and someone's uploaded a picture with you in it, Facebook's facial recognition is so good that with just 2 or 3 pictures on there, you then probably have a shadow profile of this person is unique and they are connected to these people because they are in that photo with them at the same time, right? And and from there, probably even more information about you can be extrapolated. They have techniques for AI to extrapolate political biases based on what your activity is on Facebook, with an alarming amount of accuracy, and that can extend into shadow profiling as well. It is astonishing what is being done and can be done with big data. It really is. Do you think AI is good or bad? Says Buttermel No. I think it's inevitable. That's the way I look at it. In fact, I could tie what you're asking into my grander outlook on things. So, if you've been around my streams for a long time, you would have heard me be pretty anti-technology and anti progression in a weird way, right? It sounds strange, but I've always looked at the world like as we improve technology, we improve the rate, the speed at which we suck up resources from the planet and further our output of CO2 and potentially damage our environment for the future, right? We could potentially be sowing the seeds of our own destruction. And I see technology as the thing that speeds that up, that makes it faster. There was a time when we didn't all have smartphones in our pocket, but now we're replacing them constantly and getting one that's a little bit faster than the last one. They can do all this amazing stuff, and I just look at it like it's just more things being made and resources. But having taken the time to try and listen to people with different opinions and thoughts, I had a really good argument just not so long ago that back in the 80s there used to be several different devices that have all been replaced by your smartphone, like an answering machine, for example, or even like VCRs and recording equipment, a camcorder. It's all a phone. A phone. That's the obvious bit. A camera. It's all been shuffled down into one device, and that is efficient. This person was also saying that over time we have become more efficient and better at extracting resources. We are, for the products we make, the things we create with our technology, we are actually taking less out of the ground than what we once did to create that. So there is some efficiency involved. Now, I don't think we can put the brakes on what we're doing here on this planet. I don't think there's going to be a movement that's going to stop everyone in their tracks and go, let's all go back to living in the woods, right? And stop emitting CO2. Let's all put down our phones and our computers. One of the other arguments I've heard is that if we were to all take a step back towards more localized systems of living, that would actually have a greater impact, because the efficiency of doing things at scale means that we can have more sustainability for large amounts of people. But if we all went back to sort of living off the land, air quotes, everyone's down the road from their local farm, it wouldn't work. We actually need, in a weird way, factory farming to feed people. I would say factory farming is horrible and inefficient, but we need forms of mass farming. We need the technology that has allowed us to get more yield from crops to sustain what we're doing for everyone on the planet. So putting the brakes on everything that's going on ain't going to happen. It's just not a thing that's going to happen. So therefore, how do you want to think and feel about it? I don't feel like what I would have once thought was the best thing to do is possible. So I shouldn't feel down and out by it. What's the next thing? I think we have to get behind the progression of technology. I think we have to go for it. When guys like Elon Musk are talking about going to space to improve technology to solve problems here, at first I thought that's ridiculous, but I kind of get it now. It's we have to use technology to solve the problems, right? It's the thing racing us towards the edge of the cliff. It's probably also the only thing that can steer us away from the edge of the cliff as well. So yeah, I think that technology is essentially the answer to a problem and the problem is technology, right? Now, to tie it back to talking about AI, I think that AI is an inevitable part of where we're going, and I think we will need AI at some point, because there was a time when things were made or discovered by individuals and inventors. Einstein, Newton, Thomas Edison, people invented, discovered things to advance humanity. These days, things are done by giant teams of people, and things have become much more interconnected. Of course, We stand on the shoulder of giants. These things were always done off of the backs of other people's works. Before Newton, there was probably someone else that Newton learned about and created a foundation of science for him to then make his discoveries on. You know, if Einstein was around in Newton's day, he would have probably been discovering the stuff that Newton did, not the all the quantum and not quantum, sorry, general relativity and all that kind of stuff, right? So as we progress, like, we have needed more brain power now. It's not revolving so much around individuals, it's revolving around giant teams of researchers and scientists. And, you know, how big can that extend? Are we going to have teams of thousands of people working together to figure stuff out? I think it's going to be a natural progression that we start to create intelligence. Intelligence itself is a product of society. It is an emerging thing. You might think of it as individualistic, but as I just said, you know, let's go put Einstein background in the Jesus days, as Carl Pilkington once called it. The Jesus days. You know, is he going to discover E equals MC squared? Probably not. But he's a smart individual, and he's probably going to take what we know at the time and advance it a little bit further. Like, intelligence is a property that emerges from us collectively. So I think that now technology taking over intelligence it's an inevitability. And there are all kinds of things that could happen for that. It could be the greatest thing ever and free us. It could end up in the hands of the wrong people. There's many ways in which it can go, but I think it's inevitable. And just like the whole technology racing us towards the cliff, it will be the thing. We need to use technology to steer us from going off the cliff. I think the same thing will happen again with AI. That, yes, it can be potentially very dangerous and used in the wrong hands, but we're going to have to handle AI smartly and considerately. I think to pull it off the table and not use it would just be madness, because if you did, someone else somewhere would. And usually with technology, it's a race between different groups of people that think the other people are going to use it for nefarious means. So I think we have to go with the whole AI thing and use it carefully as well. We have to do it with care. James Bay says, as long as we legislate technology and don't bury our heads in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist like global warming, we'll be all right in the long run. Yeah, I'm a believer in legislation to solve problems and regulation. I believe regulation can be done wrong, it can be done poorly, but I think doing no regulation is a terrible idea. Leaving markets to correct and solve for problems, there's a history of how that doesn't work. You know, the smoking industry would be a prime example. Sounds like a Metallica song. Fight technology with technology. Dum 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 dum. The ending is near. Or maybe not. Maybe the ending is actually far away.